ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is my review for The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 11, Morning Star. So we're finally starting to get into some interesting stuff here. I talked about how when you had the war with the Saviors, it was a war. It was an entire season's worth of a war. You started out from Episode 1, guns blazing, things going crazy. And so I really wanted them to do something different, but similar. You wanted to have a different feel with the Whispers. You wanted to have different plans of attack. But you really didn't get much of a war with this season so far, and you're all the way up to Episode 11. And since it's now April 4th, and I know what happens the rest of the season, you really can't say that anything in this season was a Whisperer war. You just can't. And so what you have here, you start out with Whisperers filling sacks with sap. You have Negan and Alpha trading lashes because Alpha feels like she needed to be punished. You have her and the Whisperers saying, "We take them all." And so another little tidbit that they kind of trade off scenes with is they also go back and forth between Matt and Earl and Aaron carrying around Gamma's nephew, and of course they don't want Gamma to have any part of the baby because she left him. The Whisperers left the baby, and so they rescued it and they're raising it, and so they don't feel like Gamma deserves any part of this child's life. And so there's kind of a bit of a back and forth bickering between those three. Daryl and Lydia show up in Hilltop, letting them know that Alpha is coming. And so we have the setup for the war. Rosita talks to Eugene's CB pal Stephanie. She just kind of walks in and, here's somebody and starts talking to her, which kind of sets Eugene off, which, as you know, the shows will break from one thing, they'll go to another scene, and then they'll come back to that scene. So later on, Eugene is just kind of going off on Rosita because he didn't want her talking to Stephanie, who is the girl on the other end of that CB. You have Negan's idea for surrender that he kind of passes along to Alpha, that, instead of killing everybody, he can make them surrender and become Whisperers or whatever. Lydia warns against the Whisperers, so they kind of decide to flee from Hilltop. And so they get a bunch of people in these caravans that start moving and are blocked by trees in the road. And so instantly Darren knows that, the whole blocking a road thing is Negan's idea. Like, we've seen this before, especially when it became the start of, the Saviors taking over. So Carol sees Ezekiel's tumor. They finally have a moment where Ezekiel kind of reveals what's going on, and so there's a pretty big moment with them. Carol and Ezekiel, they have another night together where, it's implied they have sex, and then, of course, they're talking about, the future and what happens from here. Rosita and Eugene talk. That's where Eugene has the big blowout, with Rosita about her talking to Stephanie on the CB. Carol and Lydia have a heart-to-heart where, basically Lydia's asking Carol if she's going to kill her mom. Of course she is. Lydia kind of knows that she needs to be killed, but of course she personally cannot do it. And so that was kind of the conversation there. Then you have Eugene singing in his kind of baritone way, and they're showing clips of everybody in Hilltop, and they're getting ready for what's coming. Daryl and Eugene kind of say nice things to each other, but then not Eugene, Daryl and Ezekiel. I wrote Eugene here, but it was actually Ezekiel. They're saying nice things to each other, but they also make this pact that if anything should happen to one of them, the other gets the kids and gets them out of there if shit goes sideways. So Daryl has a short convo with Judith. He's kind of been like a family figure to him, and so they expect that there's going to be this war and there's going to be casualties, and so they're kind of having those moments building up to it. You have Daryl also talking to Carol, but then the war begins. You have the Whisperers coming through, and really it's not the Whisperers at first, it's just a load of walkers. And so Hilltop's fighting all these walkers, and then you see the Whisperers throwing these sat balls, and they just light up Hilltop. Just everything is on fire. So they got walkers in front, they have a huge fire behind them, and so now everybody there, Aaron, Daryl, Carol, everybody is trapped in between the fire and the walkers. And that's where they leave this episode. There was a lot of side plots coming up to the end that I thought really you could have done without. And, I mean, really, the fight took up maybe the last 10 minutes of the show, I think. So it was actually, for the most part, kind of a lackluster show, in my opinion. And it has been something that has plagued The Walking Dead. In the last few seasons, like, they have highlights, they have moments where they kind of go back to what The Walking Dead was, but then it just kind of comes back and nothing's really happening. You have these little story side plots that really don't mean anything to the big picture of what's happening. And I feel like the earlier seasons were so much better at using their time wisely and creating moments that just are gut punches, whereas they just don't have that too much anymore. So this one, I give probably a 4.5 out of 10. It was slightly below average because anything major that happened was, like I said, in the last maybe 10 minutes. And everything else was just kind of there. You know, there was a lot of people getting ready for the fight and preparing to say their goodbyes if they have to, but nothing ever happens. And so that's kind of a problem I have with The Walking Dead at this point. So ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm at. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackwitz. Kaged Nation out.